practicum was in a Category 2 school, which consisted of 220 students ranging from Foundation to Year 7. Within this, there were 50% of government assistant students, 10% Indigenous students, and 15% of students with disabilities. There are a great number of student differences identified as having an impact within the Foundation and Year 1 class that I taught over my practicum. These included intellectual disabilities or disorders. I had one student in my class with autism spectrum disorder, and I also had 2 students undergoing speech therapy at school. Cultural differences. I had multiple Indigenous students within my class. I also had one student with English as a second language. As a Category 2 school, the majority of the students came from a low socioeconomic background. As a result of this, there were also numerous students who came from a traumatic background and 3 children who were under guardianship of the minister or in foster care. Each of these student differences have significant and highly different implications for teaching and learning in the classroom. They were addressed accordingly by the school and the teachers in a number of ways and through a number of different programs. In classroom situations, there are many examples of tasks being modified to suit the readiness, interests, and learner profiles for different students. For example, I observed my mentor teacher differentiating by readiness by tier grouping students based on their previous lesson outcomes and by scaffolding a maths lesson at different levels to suit the needs of each group of students. As our class had a lot of students with behaviour problems and learning difficulties, we were lucky enough to have a full-time SSO in our classroom. Our SSO worked with specific students whilst implementing a range of literacy and numeracy activities to assist with catering to student needs. With quite a large number of Indigenous students, the school has quite a strong commitment to providing equitable education for these particular students. The school has 2 Aboriginal education teachers and also provided group activities and excursions to enable these students to experience their culture and feel inclusive within the school. Other roles that support the diverse needs of students include the school counsellor, special needs teacher who manages the student learning support program, a visiting speech pathologist, and an occupational therapist. There are some areas in which teachers could improve their philosophy and practice of differentiation, in particular through assessment and setting clear expectations for knowledge, understanding and do's. There are also limited formal strategies in place to extend and challenge academically gifted students. While each individual teacher takes a different approach to differentiation in their classroom, the school offers many programs, staff members and initiatives to create an inclusive and equitable environment for their students. The school's 5 core values, respect, adaptability, honesty, learning and teamwork, also reflect the ideals of a differentiated classroom that is inclusive of all students. When looking at the school site as a whole, it reflects a good example of a learning environment that supports diverse learners and inclusivity. Tomlinson states that everything in the classroom should facilitate learning. Many of the classrooms and shared learning spaces reflect the type of classroom that Tomlinson suggests is necessary for effective differentiation. The school strives to have a strong community focus that is also inclusive of families or students. Professional reflection. During my professional experience, I attempted to implement a number of principles of differentiation. This included the use of clear learning objectives. I found that in the beginning it was difficult to always have a clear concept of what I wanted the students to know, understand and do. However, over time I gained more confidence in my own teaching practice. I used pre-assessment many times during my teaching practicum. I saw it as a vital exercise to assess where students were at before attempting to provide them with the appropriate challenge. For example, in my history unit I had the students create a timeline of themselves to evaluate what students knew about sequencing events. Some students demonstrated little understanding and were unable to sequence any of their events. Another group of students demonstrated some knowledge of sequencing and were able to sequence some of their events. while some students demonstrated a higher standard of understanding and were able to sequence numerous events in their life. Using these pre-assessments and tiered groups, I was able to differentiate learning tasks based on student readiness. The task involved creating a timeline of their life with the assistance of parents' responses to a survey. Tier 3 students were able to do this independently, while Tier 2 were provided with some guiding questions such as, what would your first picture be if it was when you were born? And finally, Tier 1 worked as a group with myself, the teacher, modelling the task using the interactive whiteboard and then supporting students in creating their own. I have discovered through my professional experience that if you make the effort with each and every student, listen to what they have to say and understand where they're coming from, you're better equipped to provide them with the best possible learning experiences and therefore enable them to reach the best possible learning outcomes. I can therefore summarise that the teaching profession is one of great responsibility. The teacher is the person who must create opportunities for children who are diverse in their needs, attributes, backgrounds, learning profiles, interests and readiness. Education is for all, and it starts with me.